Hello, hello. I am doing phenomenal. This has been an incredible show so far. Clara, kudos. I am so proud of my fellow cohort. So congratulations. And I have nothing else to say, but just kudos and hats off to you and your phenomenal work.
Yes, we already have love for you in your YouTube chat. People are shouting your name out in the chat. I am excited to see your piece, ÍYÁguration. We know we're live. Can we hear a little bit? Maybe can you tell me a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your piece, ÍYÁguration?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Jenelle Wade, aka KJ, and I'm a dancer, choreographer, and teaching artist based in Los Angeles, California. I received my bachelor's of fine arts in dance from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro and A&T, and that is where I founded my first dance organization, Delta Chi Xi Honorary Dance Fraternity Incorporated. For the past decade, I've been working primarily in the commercial dance field, an industry where I prioritize bringing authentic African diasporic dance styles and talent to the screen. I'm looking forward to sharing my first dance film with you all that's been created during this intense pandemics of course, COVID-19, and of course, facing the continual racial injustices that we've been protesting and fighting against for many, many years and generations now. This work, ÍYÁguration, focuses on the backstory of Black women and shares a glimpse of our history, reality, and resilience as we continue to progress forward for change and equality. Acknowledging the wars that have been fought before us, the Yoruba word Iya means mother, a great mother. And of course, guration is a play on words of inauguration. So essentially, it's the inaugural work celebrating the Black woman. And I'm just excited about the cast that has been a part of this, which you will be able to see a few of them, and I will talk more about them after the show. But I've maintained the presence behind the scenes and in front of the camera of the diaspora. And so I'm so excited to introduce to you all ÍYÁguration. Please, please, please utilize the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know your feelings and thoughts and comment while you're watching the show. And you can visit the online virtual program for this piece by going to Jenelle, KaraJenelle.com/ÍYÁguration. I'll put it in the chat for you as well. So thank you so much, Tula, for your introduction. And I'm excited to share with you all ÍYÁguration. Let me tell you about my beautiful Black skin. Before you say hello, you see the depth of my melanin. Every pore, crevice, and nook of my back was meant to celebrate the rise of Black. They say the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. Well, baby, my Black creed will give you a sweet tooth. My sacrum sits with every curve, hip, and dip from the winds of calypso, mapolka, and polyrhythmic music. Swing low, sweet chariot. My lumbar rises to resist, carrying on the legacy of those we lost in the transatlantic. But I rise up like always, in the words of Andra Day. Like the whiz, my thoracic stacks up for a brand new day. But make no mistake, my resilience was not given. It's earned relentlessly through the struggle for the mission I've been chosen. My forefathers are the men who built the White House brick by brick, and I descend from the matriarchs whose breast milk fed masses kin across plantations. I am royally blessed, and with my sternum I profess my history stretches like Mansa Musa's treasure chest. Black diamonds and pearls, as if I ruled the world. There will be endless opportunities for every little Black and brown girl. To the great mothers whom I adore, let me first say, Ashe, and allow me to salute you from my book of names. Let me start with Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm, for example. Thank you for reminding me that I always deserve a seat at the table. Nina Simone, your sultry tone was ahead of your era, but an artist's duty to reflect the time is the challenge I remember. Mary Church Terrell at the suffrage march, Crimson and Cream was heavy on the scene fighting for women's voting rights. Truth be told, Sojourner made the memorable sacrifice. She bared her breast as a feminist to put the question, ain't I a woman, to rest. Now your bronze skin stands tall in the U.S. Capitol Hall, forcing the government to bow down and acknowledge your crown. I thank you both, Rosa and Claudette, because before Park sat, Miss Colvin resisted arrest. Allow me to honor young Ruby. You were the bridge to integration, and Septima Poinsett was the link for blacks in the South to receive a decent education. Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune founded the National Council of Negro Women. Spelmanites and Bennett Bells, respect to the HBCUs with a woman's vision. Let me curtsy to the Queen Obama deemed as the godmother of civil rights. Your mission stood tall, Miss Dorothy Irene Height and Dr. Angela Davis, whose fist we cannot miss, Queen of the Black Panther Party and revolutionary activist. EIs, I thank you for clearing the path for us to reign. And in my most humble tongue, I pay homage. And again, I say, Ashe. Let us adjust our crowns, lift our head high, and celebrate our melanin. For EI is with us, and this is our inauguration.
What about this? How about
Hey.
Oh, really? Sorry. And it looks like walking down the street. Hey, I don't know what to do. She jumped that kind of beat. She said, "Come on, girl, do your thing, do your thing, do your thing. Come on, girl, do your thing, do your thing." Stop. Hey, girl, what? Are you ready? For what? To dig. For what? I love you. That's the way she jiggle up. That's the way she jiggle up. You must be. I keep your ball. Come on, girl, let's do our thing. Why not? Why not? My head hurt, my arms hurt, my bullshit. Let's ride, to right, to left, right, left, right, left, to right, to left, right, left, right. Ooh, a down man, to your two head. To the lady with the African boots. She can do the palm hump, she can do the twist. But most of all, she can kiss, kiss, kiss. But wait, what? That's why we need moments like this.
Exactly.
You know, we really do, because I swear people are always trying it.
They are.
And I have to tell them all the time, ooh, girl, not today. All right, I know we all have things that we deal with all the time. It's ridiculous at this point.
Once we get in these streets, it's like a whole other story.
You know, I just can't with it.
Listen, I'm gonna tell y'all something, okay? Just today, cause you know I've been getting my together.
Okay.
So I was out there, right?
Tell us.
So I'm over at the bank, standing in line, right? Here comes Karen talking from behind.
Oh, what you talking about?
Nothing. She said she never seen a black girl with hair so long.
Wow.
You know I like my inches, and I'm standing there thinking, don't you say nothing wrong, girl.
I know that's right.
You know she did.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell you the rest of it.
You have to take place. Okay.
Take it.
Let me tell you about this one. I was on a conference call for work one day. And it happens to be Equity, Inclusion, Diversity Day. My boss asked some questions like, I'm the token in this space. Look, I had to tell them, I am not the spokesperson for my race. Okay. Because they will ask you everything. You represent everybody. And I gotta tell them, ooh, girl. What? Not today.
Well, look, I got one too. Well, I was at the park with my girlfriend on the phone. You know, catching up because it had been so long.
No, that's a good time, girl talk.
And this stranger had the nerve to eavesdrop.
In your business?
Yes. All in my mouth like he can't get popped.
You better tell him. No.
Oh my God. Not today.
Not where? Today.
Not today. We're anymore.
Right.
So y'all know on Sundays, I be relaxing. Do my thing. So I'm at the grocery store at the checkout line. Buying my Simply Lemon Lime. This guy came from behind and said, girl, you are fine. He said, can I ask you mix with anything if you don't mind?
I'm
mixed with black and black and blue. Okay. Yes. The audacity. I can't. Okay.
Juice is mixed, sir. Not me. So when I was at the bank, right? I was talking to Karen. Girl, I looked back because I knew she was still staring. Right? Before I could turn around and look her in her eye, she had the nerve to ask me if all my hair was mine.
Why does it matter?
The capacity of it all. I said, your hair is mine. It's yours.
Oh gosh, ridiculous. You know what? It's ridiculous.
You know, like, girl.
Even I don't mind having my department grow.
Right.
Of course not.
But I had to tell them, I am not your Negro. Ooh. Girl.
Be clear. Be clear.
Not today. Not
I don't
today.
know about these tokens and whatnot.
Oh, you know about
this ain't no Chuck E. Cheese, honey.
I'm a host. Next to me, like,
That's fine. I put some in the machine, okay?
no, if you need that info, okay? Okay, all right.
Well, listen, Brad at the park, I had to let him know.
Oh, yeah. Yes, girl.
Look, if I want to code switch, that's my business. I got 2 degrees, sir. I don't need you in this.
Oh, let him know. You are well educated.
Yes.
Okay, 2 degrees.
There's levels.
No, 2 more than you.
Where did you stop?
Okay. Wait, let me get out the cutie.
Yes.
So I gave it to him straight with no chaser.
That's
right.
Well,
Some black on black cream of nature.
not today.
The stories represent cycles of generations, just as the print of the Subra, passing oral traditions and sisters to erase. Your message beyond the bottle often lives within the waves.
Kole ile komani dombala kola visa damba yang kule dambare la damba yang kule dambare la damba yang kule dambare la kole ile komani dombala kola visa damba yang kule dambare la damba yang kule dambare la ile komani, no para cola visa.
trouble the water. E.I.D. I seen your mind. Gods are gonna trouble the water. Skin bronzed by sun and adorned in wine. Gods are gonna trouble the water. She speaks with peace, her audio line. Gods are gonna trouble the water. Oh, Nubian goddess through this fire. Gods are gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. Gods are gonna trouble the water. We honor thee, melanated queen. Gods are gonna trouble the water. The battles we marched, we've already foreseen. Gods are gonna trouble the water. Holy Spirit, we call on you. Gods are gonna trouble the water. Oh, man of the charge with little through. Gods are gonna trouble the water. Our skin is blessed and our crown sits high. Our power is within, not to be denied.
I think what you're trying to say is, why am I so insistent upon giving out to them that blackness, that black power, that black, pushing them to identify with black culture? I think that's what you're asking. Well, I have no choice over it in the first place. To me, we are the most beautiful creatures in the whole wide world, black people. And I mean that in every sense, outside and inside. And to me, we have a culture that is surpassed by no other civilization, but we don't know anything about it. So again, I think I said this before in the same interview. My job is to somehow make them curious enough or persuade them by hook or crook to get more aware of themselves and where they came from and what they are into and what is already there, and just to bring it out. This is what compels me to compel them, and I will do it by whatever means necessary.
I free all my sons. I love them, baby, like diamonds and pearls. Ooh, if I ruled the world, and then we'll walk right up to the sun, hand in hand. We'll walk right up to the sun, we won't land. We'll walk right up to the sun, hand in hand. We'll walk right up to the sun, we won't land. If I ruled the world, I free all We'll walk right up to the sun, we won't land. We'll walk right up to the sun, hand in hand. We'll walk right up to the sun, we won't land. We'll walk right up to the sun, hand in hand. We'll walk right up to the sun, we won't land. If I rule the world,
Amazing, KJ. Absolutely amazing. Can I invite you onto the stage with me right now so I could just flower you, send you all your flowers right now? The chats were on fire. I have my phone out, so I'm going to pull up what people are saying. In our Zoom, we have, this is deep. That was one of the first comments in that back scene. Absolutely. We have folks watching in from Nairobi, Kenya, as well as Costa Rica. I saw in YouTube. Yes, amazing. Go off. So much joy. The imagery, so powerful. Oh my gosh, angels talking. I think they're talking about Aminata's voice singing. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Dan says, major piece of work, KJ, so powerful and far reaching. A holy cow from Miri. And I just want to show some love to the folks in the YouTube watching with us right now. I know both me and KJ were in the comments with y'all, but I just want to shout out Johnny Branham with your popcorn. Thank you for watching with your popcorn. Yes, beautiful. Get it, KJ, from Professor Briant Bain. Just fire emojis. Janet with the ashe. So much love, so much love. Do you want to say something really quick before I bring in the panelists, KJ?
Yes.
Oh. Can I say something too? One more thing?
Absolutely.
I got the cutest little picture of my young niece. She's only 1 year old, watching your performance and glued to it. So just shout out to Lori and my fam for sending me that picture. You're reaching so many people with this. So
yes. Well, I'm just happy that the work speaks to many generations, because that was the point of it, and the intention is being spread and shared. So no, I just have a heart of gratitude. I'm excited to welcome the panelists. If you're watching on YouTube and in our webinar, please stay with us, because the lineup is incredible of the panelists that Tula is going to introduce now.
Yes. So I am going to bring Claire onto the stage while I do the panelists. And for my audience, I would like y'all right now to write down any questions you have, any comments, put it in the chat right now. Any love, put it in your chat, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Zoom. We could see it, we will respond to it. And while you're doing that, I'm going to introduce our panelists. So the first up to the stage is Nina Flagg. Nina is a LA-based dance artist, choreographer, and educator. Over the past 2 decades, Nina's work has evolved as an intersection between multiple movement traditions, explored through the lens of hip-hop consciousness and Afro embodiment. Currently, Nina is continuing her practice as a dancer, choreographer, pedagogue, and online guest artist for organizations such as CLI Studios, Los Angeles Dance Project, and the Alvin Ailey Company. She is also enjoying her 5th year as Cal Arts dance faculty. Welcome, Nina. We're so glad to have you tonight. Next up, we have Rachel Hernandez. Rachel began her professional studies in Salvador, Bahia. She's had the privilege to study with landmark masters such as Mestre King, Jose Santos, Rosangela Silvestre, Vera Passos, Nilgenia Fonseca, Machia Santiago, as well as the Escola de Dança Ballet Folclórico da Bahia and UFBA. She has developed her signature Afro-Brazilian dance classes and extra ancestral workshops being taught throughout LA County. She is currently co-artistic director and choreographs the dance component of Extra Ancestral. She also plays percussion with Bloco Ubini. Welcome to our stage, Rachel. So happy to have you with us. Next, we have Angela Jordan. Angela is a choreographer, director, and filmmaker. Her dance film Rise Up won first place in the inaugural Creative Rebellion Olympics film competition, and her recent dance film collaboration with Contratiempo called Somos Agua, a community honoring of Mama Agua, premiered as part of Common Ground USC's Vision and Voices online series. Jordan is currently on staff at Cal State Long Beach, Santa Monica College, El Camino College, and the Debbie Allen Dance Academy. Welcome, Angela. Welcome.
Thank you.
Next, we have Maxine Montelus. Maxine is a native of Brooklyn, New York, and a first-generation Haitian American. She is a choreographer, dancer and educator who founded her company MV Dance Project in 2019. Recently, Maxine was the choreographer for Opera Orlando's presentation of Georges Bizet's Carmen, set in Haiti in the 1960s. The production premiered at the Dr. Phillips Center for the Performing Arts earlier this month. Welcome. So glad to have you, Maxine. Welcome. And last, but definitely not least, we have Karine Florima. Karine is a multidisciplinary artist whose work is based in Afrofuturist feminist concepts. She investigates themes of cultural displacement and social ambiguity while creating immersive, meditative multimedia environments. As a sound healing artist and facilitator, she's organized online healing events to encourage interconnectedness as a form of sacred activism. Welcome, welcome, Karine. I am so excited to have all of y'all on the stage here tonight, this beautiful group of Black women. Wow, I'm honored. I'm just honored to be here and honored to be in this conversation. I would love to start off this chat by talking about what resonated with us when we watched both pieces tonight, when we watched Clara's Harmonia as well as KJ's ԻYÁguration. So I would love to pass this question first to Rachel. I know you were able to co-choreograph part of this piece. So I would love to actually just what resonated when you were making the piece and what resonated now when you got to watch it. And then after Rachel responds, anyone can take the stage. Go ahead, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Tula. There's so much stuff resonated with me in this piece. I love that Ms. KJ did a beautiful job of representing all the beautiful Black women and the history and all the contributions that they've made. She touched on so many elements, particularly in the part that we worked on for my piece in Limpeza and using water. And in some form or another, all iyas, all women represented in the Candomblé tradition are represented in some form as water, whether it be the rains, whether it be the river, whether it be the ocean, whether it be the flood. So it really, really, really resonated with me, the water portion and working with the Limpeza and really working on cleaning up that relationship and also honoring that flow and relationship and the necessity that water and women are in this world. So I just want to leave it there to start. I don't want to talk too much, but I love it, loved it. Thank you so much.
I love that. What's lingering with me once you're talking is the water and women as water and just like the honor that is coming through those elements. Anyone else might want to chime in? Karine, do you have anything that resonated with you tonight?
Yeah, I really appreciate in both pieces how sound created another meditative element to the ceremony that was, being performed. Particularly, I was thinking about in KJ's piece, going back to what Rachel just said about the water and how the water was actually a percussive element. I thought that was fascinating. And yeah, I loved during the spoken parts, hearing the sound of the waves in the background. It was really, I was transfixed to the screen. My eyes did not move for either piece. So I appreciated both of them. Thank you.
Amazing. Angela, do you have anything that resonated with you?
Yes, water. It represented to me a spiritual element, that we're part of something greater, in the act of cleansing and renewing. And once again, that it's a part of us and we are part of it. And also rhythm and everything, and now how every rhythm is embedded in our culture, the way we talk, the way we walk, the way we sit, the way we converse, everything. It's a natural part of our being, and it's nice to see it celebrated and framed in such a beautiful and powerful way. Thank you.
I'm gonna Maxine or Nina, whoever would love to answer next.
Sure. Definitely the strong presence of ritual in general to stay for connectivity. That was a running theme that I saw very much present in both, in the significance of ritual to stay connected to ancestors, the creator, and one another, really.
Absolutely. The reverence for tradition, for ritual, and also texture. So much texture through fabric, through our crown, our hair, through color, through how we play with light, through architecture. And I think that's something that really spoke to the audience because we're at a time in history where we're longing for this variation, right? And we're longing for some kind of change. And seeing earth, seeing sky, seeing water, seeing texture, seeing ritual, seeing adornment. These are all things that, we're longing for at this time that usually happen in communal spaces with other practitioners. So to be able to get that through the screen and experience that through the screen was really beautiful and powerful.
Absolutely. And thank you for that, Nina, because that feels like it starts to bring in this next point that I'm thinking about. And it's this point of the importance of sharing and protecting our histories, our narratives, our cultures, right? And so I wonder if we can just speak to that. Like, what is the importance of sharing our history, of sharing our customs, of sharing what is so dear to us? And how can we continue to amplify these traditions of the African diaspora? Can I pass that actually to one of our artists first, KJ, and then after that, feel free anyone to talk. Like we can, let our hair down and just talk. Feel free to talk whenever you want. Okay, go ahead, KJ.
Yes, and Tula, if you don't mind giving me just the summarize that question for me one more time as I'm looking at multiple chats. So I caught it.
No problem.
All of it.
No problem. So the question is, what is the importance of sharing and protecting our histories, our narratives, our customs, and how do we continue to do that? How do we continue to amplify these traditions of the African diaspora?
Thank you. I think it is so important to think about the representation and think about this is such a heavy question, but I appreciate it because at the end of the day, our traditions inform who we are as people. Our culture and our practices, those are embedded in us and those are instilled for many, many different reasons and in different ways, from the food that we eat to the holidays we celebrate to our spiritual practices, the music we listen to, the way that we speak, the way that we dress, and especially the dance and the movement that we do. And it's a part of our lifestyle. And so I think it's important that we not only continue to practice it in its authentic form so that we keep the value of it, but also understanding why it is intended and why each thing is done. And that is why we have to continue to practice this so that it becomes a story and a through line that we can pass down from generation to generation to generation. One of the questions that was thrown into the chat from Joe Brown, my brother from another, asked about the significance of the white cloth in the last section. So the last rhythm that we did when we were out in the field is called Dundumba. So Dunumba is a Guinea rhythm, and it comes from, or is done essentially originally for war and for to fight. And so when I talk about the protests and the different imagery that I use, from the suffrage march to feminist movement, civil rights movement, Black Lives Matter, all of those are fights. Those are all battles and ways that we are fighting against racial injustices, white supremacy, patriarchal systems, and things of that nature. And so for me, I needed to include Dunuba and as women doing Dunuba, because traditionally women didn't do that dance or that rhythm. But the first time I learned it was through Robin G, and she had a full women's cast. And so it's also to show the strength and resilience that we have as women in the fight and how we continue to be at the forefront of it. And specifically, the reason why I had us continue with the cloth is because typically there would be like a tail situation that they would have in their hand. And I wanted to bring back the panos that we had in the Limpeza section that Rachel choreographed. I wanted to bring back the connection of the cleansing. It's the same material, actually. And what we use for the cleansing, and to bring in the orisha and the alignment and making acknowledgement of our ancestors and the predecessors who've done the work before us, I wanted to continue that legacy and the journey in our work in Dunuba, even from us doing it in this generation. So it's about lineage and connection, which speaks to tradition and why it's important for us to continue to do it. Sorry, that was long-winded, but.
Go ahead, Rachel. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add a short commentary as well, that I think it's super important in everything that you're saying with the history that was presented and everything that people have fought for. One thing that I really think when you talk about protection of the diaspora is for us to really, really study. You know what I'm saying? Going deep in our practices, understanding that these practices are much more than the commercialization, much more than the colonization. These practices were a part of life. Okay, so when you speak to water, when you speak to Orisha, you're speaking to yourself. You're reminding yourself who you are. Speaking to determination, softness, love, compassion. And every time we sing the songs, every time we dance, every time we drum, and every time those things go together, that we do those things together, it is ritual in space. And the reason why, as we know, those things were taken away, because they're so powerful to who we are as human beings, in our happiness, in our joy, in the way that we're able to overcome things. So I think right now, when we talk about protection, as more and more people are interested in the commercialization of those things, to really honor those fights, one of the things that we can really do is to study and really go deep in those traditions, and really make sure that we're upholding those things in a beautiful way, and having these conversations.
To add on to what Rachel said, I'm sorry, to add on to what Rachel said, I'm a big advocate for studying. I feel like, especially a lot of us I notice are educators, and part of it being an educator to me is lifelong study. You remain a student. But in addition to studying the practices, but also studying your own individual lineages to uphold this, because we all have strong ancestry. And I think it's sometimes people overlook the significance of looking within your own individual ancestry and what traditions lie within your specific lineage. So, upholding that and telling your own those stories as well, and pulling from those traditions adds to the tapestry of protecting our collective lineages as well. So just wanted to say that.
Yes, and just to add on to the amazing things that everyone else has said, I also think it is of the utmost importance for us to archive our own traditions, our own history, our own ancestry, because as we see even just the news, that people see us from a different lens, and for us to be able to take the narrative into our own hands, and I love that scene in KJ's piece where the women were going through the different games. Like, that's archival right there, and to me, that's a really important part of being able to uplift our own cultures, our own nuanced experiences and perspectives that we have, is for us to take control of our own content, our own history, our own trajectory, and archive our work.
And just to echo what everyone else is already saying, this idea of preservation, because the farther we get away from the origin of our traditions, the more chance of it being diluted, right? And not only for others, but for the generations that come after us. And we see this in Afro-diasporic traditions. We see this in hip hop culture, where people are attracted to the performative quality of it, right? And they're not talking about the history. They're not talking about the spirituality. They're not talking about the folk aspect. So, never leaving space for someone else to tell our own stories while they're still here, because we know what happens, when that takes place, revisionist history. So making sure that we continue to tell our own stories, to preserve the culture, and also to bring up the next generation as practitioners and historians.
I want to give space for Angela and Clara, if either of y'all want to respond to this question. And then I want to throw in after a question that just came up in the chat.
I agree with everyone, what you were saying, and I just think that it's up to us to validate ourselves, and we have to be responsible for keeping the authenticity of these dance forms, even in the commercial world, to the best of our ability. And we have to tell our story in our gaze, because we own it. And It's important for other people to see us in our light from our eyes, especially young girls who are watching, and they can see themselves in us and the legacy that we are leaving. And it's really important that we speak our truth in our art form on a platform such as this, in film, live performances, whatever, curating performances in museums and parks. But it's up to us. We have to carry the torch, and we have to be a light for something that's really transformative and powerful. It's ours, it's in our DNA, and we are the natural storytellers, and we are the keepers of culture. So if it's not us, then who will it be?
Right, and I do agree with everyone here. I think anything that I would add would just echo what a lot of you have mentioned before, which is just the significance that telling our stories has for future generations, and telling it in our own ways as well. So maybe that will educate future generations to also continue remembering and even reimagining how these stories can continue to be told through different mediums and so on and so forth. So yeah, just have to echo a lot of what everyone else has already said.
Absolutely. And I'm going to amplify a comment that came through on YouTube from Wade Global Marketing, which says studying our history and bringing our own stories and narratives forward is vitally important, particularly in these present times. So I think we all have.
Mama. Sorry.
Oh, amazing.
Our mama and daddy are watching.
Amazing. Amazing. Yes, that just echoes everything that we're saying. So I want to, I think, add a little bit of complexity to our conversation by bringing in a question by Joe Brown, who's in our YouTube chat. And he asks, is Hollywood an absolute necessity are the proper vehicle for sharing such rich, deep-rooted African Black customs? Do you have ideas for artistic autonomy within our community? Can I pass that either to Angela or Nina first? Because I know y'all both work in this commercial or the entertainment industry and in Hollywood. So.
Yeah, I don't think that it's a necessity, because when you're working commercially, you're always in some way compromising to someone else's vision, right? Even, and if there's degrees of that, but there's a formula when we're talking about commercial work. And you somehow have to fit into the formula in order to gain the platform that you're looking for. Meaning you can push against that, and it's done all of the time. But if we're talking about being on a platform that's reaching a global community, there is a formula that you're asked to fit into. And I don't think that with social media and all of the different ways that we have of accessing the global art community, that we have to rely on Hollywood anymore for that access and for that platform. We're at a place where we actually can create our own platforms and tell our own stories, right? And gain that traction, which gives us more power to come into those conversations when we are, in those settings where people are asking us to tell the story in a way that is viable to being monetized in a commercial setting. But I don't think that it's necessary in the way that it was maybe 30 years ago, where that was the only way to really tell your story on a global platform.
KJ, did you have something?
Yes, Angela, were you going to say something first though? Okay. I fully agree with that. As far as what Nina is saying, as far as us being able to use our own platforms, everybody has social media. I was over here typing another chat. People were asking about handles and whatnot. And even just this show where everyone is streaming right now, you have control of your own platform to be able to create the work that you want to create. I think that what happens though is that because our culture is so beautiful and so complex in many ways, it often becomes something that people gravitate towards and that they like. And so the issue, or the area where I feel as though we need to make sure that we do still have a foot in Hollywood or industry work, is because if not, it continues to be appropriated. We see a lot of people that take because they see the trends of Look at where hip hop is nowadays, especially talking about movement, like as far as on the dance side, and how we get put out of our own genres and our own techniques and our own, styles. And so same thing with Afrobeats. Now it's becoming more and more popular once America gets its hands on it, once it becomes mainstream. And then now people want to create movement and embed it in their music videos and concept videos and award shows and things of that nature. So I think it's important for us to, like Nina was saying, continue to build on our own so that people know where to go to when these opportunities come up and arise, so that we can operate in both capacities. I think that it's great when we are at places where we can say, yes, I authentically create this movement, and this is who I am and where I come from and the technique that I study and train under and teach and know. And I also can make sure that I am still in control of that when it does go to the commercial world, so that when I'm choreographing or I'm casting or whatever, I can make sure that it stays authentic, so that I'm not having to then wonder about watering down my own culture.
Karine, I saw your hand come up. Angela.
Yes, sorry about that. So I'm actually a screenwriter as well. And this time has been really transformative as far as opportunities for, screenwriters, Black femme identifying screenwriters over 40 even, that's just like a new thing, which is amazing. So I do feel there is going to be a changing tide coming that's very similar to like the 90s sort of Afrocentric movement that happened with New Jack Swing and all of that. At the same time, I think that we are trying to create something a little bit more sustainable. Like a lot of us are trying to create our own media entities, production companies. I agree with what KJ just said. You really have to take your own content into your hands. You can't, or you shouldn't, I don't recommend you, relying on Hollywood to just sort of like take care of you. I'm really inspired by Issa Rae and how expansive her career is. It's not just the one show that she's focusing on. She's focusing on like, how can I nurture a community around my work? And I think that's the next evolution that we need to go to as Black artists. Whether you're a filmmaker, writer, dancer, how can I create a community around my work?
Anyone who wants to take it next, go for it.
I mean, I don't work in the Hollywood realm. I understand the desire to stay within that realm in the sense that those images from Hollywood, permeate the entire world, and that affects people's images of us. So I co-sign on what KJ, I don't want to say KJ said about keeping your hand in like the commercial world, but also building your own. And also just really, I think that artists, I do think this is an exciting time of artists talking more about building our own. I think that needs to be a continuing conversation. I hope that energy doesn't die, because I think that that's how we can prevent our traditions from being misrepresented or misaligned in some way, shape, or form on certain platforms. We are in a position now to create our own and work together to establish institutions of our own. Especially going alongside that, I hope artists are also investing in different modes of financial sustainability, because unfortunately, our education system did not teach us about that, and you have to often learn through mistakes. So I just wanted to make vocal on this platform that I hope artists are also, alongside working together, looking at different financial modes of sustainability to be able that way, if God forbid something happens to one of us and when the time comes we pass on, whatever we build together is sustainable for generations to come.
Angela, I would love to leave space for you in case you want to respond to this question, and then I'm going to chime in.
Sorry, I'm dealing with I have an allergy right now. Now, I just concur with everyone's saying. Yeah, except you have to use the platforms that are available to us, and there's many available now. There are many available to us, so we don't have to rely on Hollywood anymore. Once again, we have to control the narrative. We have to control what we put out there. Once again, I say it's up to us. So how we're going to frame it, and we're going to just do it. All we have to do is just start doing it, and I think we'll start mobilizing more people to create original content that's for us, by us, to us.
Absolutely. And right from this point, I think within all of our comments, there's this conversation of building our own, of making sure we are reflected in all these spaces. And so in our Zoom, we had a question of where in LA can I continue to study African dance? But I want to open that up because I feel like people on this stage are hosting classes, Afro-diasporic classes, right? Which are sharing the histories. Rachel, I'm thinking of you. Nina, I'm thinking everyone is amazing educators on this stage. So I want to give a moment for y'all to shout out your own platforms where you're teaching, and or to shout out any other educators, whether it's in LA or beyond, who is teaching these forms while bringing in the histories and the narratives, everything that is so important to us. Rachel, can I start with you for that?
Yeah, so I definitely have to shout out Extra Ancestral. I mean, I feel like we have online classes. We've been providing throughout the pandemic anywhere from 25 to 50 classes a month, all Afro-diasporic traditional dance forms. We had KJ, we had Ashley, who was in the piece, Afro Dance Hall. We have my Afro-Brazilian dance classes. Khalil is the leader on our platform, teaching West African drumming, Afro-Cuban drumming, Afro-Brazilian drumming. We have samba. We have classes in the park on Saturdays, samba reggae, if you like more carnivalesque stuff. We have Orisha practice and study dance classes every Sunday, as well as drumming classes every single Sunday. So I definitely have to shout that out. We've been working really hard to incorporate master dance teachers and music teachers, all pandemic, into our online platform from every single aspect of the African diaspora. So yeah, if you want to study, every Sunday I teach. I'm planning on teaching more on different classes online. And I teach Orisha, from the Afro-Brazilian tradition. And then also Khalil teaches on Sundays right before me, Afro-Brazilian drumming. So that's something you can do right away. We have tons of beautiful teachers here in LA, though. I'll let KJ and Nina and others talk about everybody else.
So I'll go next. Everybody's so polite. I'll go next. I will say that I taught a community-based dance hall class for about 6 years, and I stopped a couple of years ago. But I'm actually going to start my class back up online in May until we can be in person and be safe, because we were packed in there very tight, being juicy and sweaty all up on each other. So I'm going to start online and also teaching house. I was teaching a house class off and on. So I'm going to start up my dance hall and house classes, and you can follow. I'm on Instagram, NinaFlag_dance. So that's coming in May, towards the end of May. And so we can get back into that practice together. And I'll pass it on.
KJ, you had unmiked. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I was just going to shout out and say how much love I have for Rachel and Nina as instructors, as dancers, also because of what they bring to the table. It's not just a dance class. Like, you feel fully that they are a whole artist. They bring their whole beings to the stage, to the room, to the studio, all of that. So just want to show all the love there. And then also how Maxine was mentioning about sustainability, financial sustainability. I also have to give a shout out to Rachel Hernandez for Extra Ancestral. As far as building the online platform during the pandemic, they employed me as a dance artist. So I just want to say that it's also beautiful when you are able to build your own and employ and create opportunities for your people. Like, that is a prime, beautiful example. And they've been able to sustain it during this entire past year and still going strong. Another organization or arts collective I want to highlight is Dansaku. by Dante Fayol. He teaches traditional West African every Saturday in Leimert Park. I do think, and I hope I'm not jumping the gun, but I think I am subbing for him tomorrow. So I just wanted to put that out there for anybody who's in LA, but he has a class every Saturday at 11 a.m. at Leimert Park. I know there are plenty of people. I just know that different situations have changed now in COVID. So I just don't want to, I don't know, throw out anybody who maybe is not teaching currently, but there are many, many different beautiful instructors across the diaspora. So we're talking about dance hall, soca, African, Afro-Brazilian, Afro beats. And I just want to say that because of the way that we've been having to push beyond the constraints of COVID-19, I know for me, my home studio, Movement Lifestyle, has closed their doors to business. I just want to say that anybody who is currently teaching, whether it's an online platform or in person, socially distant, outside, all of that, please support and show love to those instructors, because it really takes a lot of sacrifice to continue to share in that capacity. So yes, I will share some websites as well and names. I'll work on that while I mute.
Okay, that just brings in this discussion of COVID. That's a whole nother conversation in relation to these pieces. So I am about to transition this talk to that subject. But right before we do that, I want to make sure we get one last question, which is related to what we've been talking about. And in our YouTube, I believe this is a Johnny Branham, says, KJ, could you talk about how you kept this community building at the center of your project?
Absolutely. I will say that community came in strong for me, and there's no way that I would have been able to create this work without a community. First and foremost, I'll start with my cast. So back in November, I started working with Ashley Blanchard, who is the lead soloist that you see in the piece. She was not just a friend to me. She was a dancer and my muse. She was my inspiration because also, if people don't know, I had knee surgery back in October. And so I couldn't dance myself. And Nina already knows, because she's like, girl, I told you about this. This knee situation, you better sit down when you need to sit down. And, you know, I'm a little hard-headed sometimes, but it was a time for me to sit down. So I had to trust another being in person to be able to translate the movement onto their body. So we worked on that. We built 2 or 3 of the scenes in solo work. And then I progressed to putting it on a cast once I moved forward and advancing to candidacy. And so then Rachel was key as far as even plugging me into Brazil Cultural Center, where I was able to utilize their space for, a great rate in order to be able to have rehearsals. Of course, we were COVID testing and mask on and socially distance and things of that nature, but being able to have that connection. And then she was able to also help and come in and choreograph a portion of the piece as well. Tulani Simone is a good friend of mine who is phenomenal. She agreed to come into the mix and to dance. And then Nyrene Brown, who's right now filming a movie already back in Atlanta, she took the time that she had to come in and do work with me and actually build, because they understood my vision. And as not just friends, but also colleagues and fellow artists, they understood the work and were willing to be a part of that process. I'll say also, even just the videographer, Simone Santos, we didn't have access to equipment and to like a production team and all of that. So we had to be the team. We had to use our network to get our resources. And so Simone flew back in from the East Coast. She was phenomenal. She's the one that had all the amazing drone shots that people were talking about. And then Jocelyn McClanahan, who is my best friend's girl. She was our makeup artist, our PA. She was a little bit of everything. And when the guns, when it got down to the fire, everybody was down to roll. We lost our location last minute and had to get an Airbnb down in Mexico. So I told someone, we filmed in Rosarito, Mexico. We drove down across the border. I got an SUV, it just pushed us across the border. And we filmed all of that within I would say 36 hours. We filmed all of that. And we only had 5 rehearsals. So they were phenomenal in establishing that work and being a part of that. And I also wanted to make sure that what my piece was about was also represented in the process. So I hope that I did that in the sense of maintaining the diaspora and the culture. And then, of course, I cannot forget, I know we're talking about EIs and women and all of the greatness, but I have to shout out our phenomenal percussionist, the legend, Khalil Cummings, and just all of the amazing work he did. He was like, KJ, what you need? What you need? Okay, you need a Guinea Friday play, or you need a Dunumba, you need that cuckoo, you need a Ramon. Yeah, like, what do you need? And he just was able to work it out. And so really, I feel grateful that I have people that are legends, that are amazing, that are just phenomenal in their craft and what they do, that I call friends, and being able to pull on them. And then, of course, you, Tula, Rashida, it's evident because y'all are my team and my crowd. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, KJ, for that. I am going to shift us as we almost maybe getting closer to wrapping up, but I do want to make sure that we talk about this like huge topic of COVID and how you made this in COVID, right? We have a comment and / question in our Zoom from Ryan, and I'm going to read it out for us. So, both pieces demonstrated such impeccable editing work and cinematography that elevated the choreography. Yes, amplifying that. Ryan's question is, does KJ or Clara see this transitioning to a stage / live performance? And if so, what might be retained, changed, or adapted? So imagining what happens with these pieces once we're out of the pandemic. KJ or Clara, whoever wants to go first can go.
I'll hop on. I do have to say that I have only worked on the stage, so creating this work for camera was like my first experience. It was wonderful. It definitely introduced me to a whole new world of art making and creativity that I was not even aware of, because before COVID, I don't think I would have even of course, I was interested in video work, but I would have never taken the initiative to do it myself. So this really, really forced me to do that. And we did leave out a lot of work. There was like a whole nother piece that I was not able to show. And yeah. And I would love to adapt this to a stage and include some of those works that was not able to be shown on the screen just because it didn't make enough sense to connect it with the other pieces that were shown, and to just like build off of that. I feel like the energies are so different when you're showing works on camera and works in a theater. So different. The intimacy level, so on and so forth, can differ as well. And so I do think that artists do consider the spaces that they choose to show their works. And so if I were to do this again, there are a lot of changes that I would make to adapt it to a stage. But yeah, doing this in a live setting would be amazing. Although I do love the videography work that I have been able to do, and to also integrate that in some way, shape, or form, whether it be having it in the background or also including it in a live work would be ideal. And doing this work kind of did make me want to consider, kind of like fine tuning these new skills that I've learned for future projects as well. So yeah, it was really exciting, and I would love to just keep working on it as well, and to see what can be built. So great question. Thank you.
KJ.
I absolutely want to see this to the stage. I think there is so much to develop within each section. There are a lot of layers that I was not able to really unpack in 25 minutes of a piece. Also, really creating this fully in, like, as far as all the scenes and mapping it out and doing it in 5 weeks, there's so much more things I want to even just sit with the material, the movement, the music, everything. And I could see this in definitely the film going to circulating through film festivals. That's something that I want to venture into. Like, so wish me luck and prayers and connections. But then also in a concert manner, I would love to see a way where I include the visuals that have been filmed as the backdrop and being able to actually do a lot of the work in person and seeing that on stages around the world. I think there's so many stories to be told, and there's ways. I would be excited to see how I incorporate the ocean and the waves of the water and like different elements and the different scenes that are not as easy to recreate on stage, but I definitely can see it going further. And this was a great challenge for me to be able to be pushed in that capacity for sure.
Okay, this is lovely. I love this conversation because it has been a feat. It's not a small thing to have done what you have done. So I want to just honor both of y'all for making like masterpieces in the midst of what is happening in our world. It is not a small feat. So you should really be so proud of yourselves, right? In this vein, I would love to open up to our panelists because we are all artists on this stage, right? And I want to ask each of y'all, how have you been approaching creating your own works during this time? Like, is there anything that you see KJ or Claire doing tonight that you are also incorporating into your practice of making? What do y'all have going on in this pandemic? Let's see, could I have Maxine answer that first, if that's okay? And then anyone could go after.
The irony of this moment is that next Saturday, I'm presenting my MFA thesis film. I'm finishing my MFA at Hunter College in Manhattan. And so my thesis film is called My Body, No Apologies, inspired by the text, The Body is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor. And so that's going to go up on hunterdances.com. It'll be up by 7 p.m. next Saturday, May 1st. And yeah, I had to do the filming thing. It's actually a solo work. So it's just me, but you know, I had to, for example, I filmed part of it at Hunter's campus. I had to get testing prior to going to campus because the opera that I was choreographing, I like arrived just like days before filming. So I had to get rapid testing done to prove that, you know, I hadn't caught anything. I had to follow protocols in one of the studio spaces I used for cleanliness. And yeah, so it's a real thing. And I've also I'm a teaching artist for Camille A. Brown. And so we had a bubble teaching artist residency upstate New York last fall and like had to do the quarantine testing, forming a bubble together. So it's a real thing, but I'm in a similar boat of like Clara in that I had never considered working in film before. Well, maybe I had, but the pandemic basically pushed me to that in this time. And so I've seen it as not as a setback per se. I didn't want to receive it that way. I see it as an opportunity for me to expand the ways in which I can tell stories.
Yes, I've been blessed to be able to shift to offer online offerings. I actually started on Instagram first by doing ancestral sound healing sessions. And basically I'm working with Ableton Live and African Beats. And then over that, I like to do a guided meditation. A lot of it incorporates, you know, talking about the different chakras and then also connecting it to the earth and our ancestors. And then it kind of morphed into me incorporating quotes from, you know, Black leaders. And then it shifted into virtual spaces when I did an offering with Black Quantum Futurism that was a Black women time camp, and it was called Into the Afrofuture. And so I incorporated the beats, the guided meditation, but then images of Black futurity. And so from there, I've just been evolving whatever I'm working on to try to work with the emerging technology even more. How can I abstract these images? How can I incorporate movement so it can be an embodied experience? So I'm excited to be offering something in coordination with Black Women Flourish on May 1st. And it's somatic based, very much ancestral healing based, and mainly centering on mindful self-compassion and nurturing that within yourself.
Amazing. Angela, you have been working. I know you had just come out with Contratiempo with the Somos Agua film, right? So I am just curious to hear, how are you doing? What is going on in this pandemic? How are you working in this pandemic?
Just using masks, socially distancing. I'm working on something right now. I'm using Zoom for rehearsals. Yeah, and just relying more on film work right now.
Anyone else want to chime in on this question? Nina, Rachel, just leaving space. Go ahead.
Sure. I've been teaching online, not always for public platforms, but teaching online and really talking about the intersectionality of the home and the domestic space becoming the stage and what that really means and how vulnerable we've all had to be in exposing our homes and our living spaces to the world, really, depending on how we're working, who we're working with, and that idea of really honoring what's happening right now in the present, because a lot of the times we're bringing in ancestral work, we're bringing in tradition, we're bringing in history, or we're projecting, talking about Afrofuturism, we're projecting into the future or creating a world that, is a bit of fantasy, what we like to see, right? But then the idea of tapping into the reality of what is happening right now without kind of building this fantasy around it. And seeing what it is to be in the home, seeing what it is to be, turning your home into a studio, your spaces into studios and performances and platforms, and what that really means in terms of us being vulnerable as artists in a way that we haven't had to be in the past. We were able to compartmentalize and keep our world separate, but what happens when we're forced to do this, and the beauty and the rawness and all the things that come out of that. So that's kind of what I'm in the middle of exploring right now and what that looks like on film.
You're so deep, girl. I love it. Everything that comes out of your mouth is just, I love it. Anyways, I think I kind of talked about, I'm serious, I love you so much. During this pandemic, we kind of talked about what we've been doing with Extra Ancestral, with the online platform. We've really been blessed. KJ was also a part of this, the Black video that we did for Juneteenth. We've been really blessed to have performances granted by different granting organizations. We were able to raise $700 for Black Lives Matter through those online performances that we filmed. And we have a couple performances coming up in May through COVID. So it's been really amazing that people have still been interested in Extra Ancestral as the band and all the dancers, and been able to really bring still what we do probably 4 to 5 times, during the pandemic, live concerts and stuff to the people. And so we're continuing to just transition back into in-person classes, in-person performances, still getting offers online. So just kind of being flexible and open to what's coming up, and just accepting the opportunities that are coming. So check us out at the Skirball in August at the Sunset Series. And so that'll be one of our first in-person big shows again. So we're just taking it as it comes and trying to really take advantage and capitalize on opportunities, but also speak to everything that's been going on this year, because it's been a huge transition.
Amazing. So I'm going to ask one more question to amplify something that Yvette brought up in our YouTube. And this question, it started to come up in Nina's response and Kareen's response about Afrofuturism. So Yvette's question: how can this how can this preservation of our authenticity, right, within our art form, within our narratives, lead into the evolution or the medium of Afro-mysticism or Afrofuturism? I'll open it up to that as well. So Kareen, would you might want to start in response to that question, and then anyone could take it from there.
I apologize. Can you repeat the question?
No problem. Okay, so how can the preservation of our authenticity, so I know earlier in this conversation we were talking about how important it is for us to share and protect our history, our narratives, and our culture, right? And to do it in a way that feels authentic to us. So I feel like this question is asking, how can those things, doing those things, lead us to this art form of and medium of Afro-mysticism and Afrofuturism? It's a big question. It is a big question.
It is. I think that if I ground this question in the present day and bring it back to, I guess for me, as someone who considers themselves an Afrofuturist, when I think about, the ways in which I want to see the world, it's actually grounded in present day. And a lot of it has to do with nurturing relationships, like intergenerational, multi-generational relationships. So I kind of see myself as an artist as this bridge or this vessel between, all of these different conduits of energy, and, whatever I'm creating is grounded in Afrofuturism, but relates to the present day by trying to bridge this gap between generations. Like, for example, I have a 12-year-old niece who sometimes she speaks in a language that I literally don't understand. I'm like, TikTok, what? And then cut to my parents who are skeptical of Zoom, and yet here I am, and I'm bridging this gap between this analog and digital sort of sphere. So I feel like as me, this purveyor of creativity and using these different modes of communication to try to bridge this gap between the generations, that is my sort of view of the future. My hope is, especially for Black people, to have more accessibility to these emerging technologies, because I don't think that a lot of us have access to these things right now. Be it, a computer to do Zoom with, be it a phone where you can have a video chat, or hell, virtual reality. These things that are at the forefront of what is coming. I'm trying to figure out, as an Afrofuturist, how can I bridge these, gaps and bring us all forward into the future through present day imaginings. I don't know if that answered the question.
I believe it does. I believe that's a great response. A great response. Nina, you have something to say? Go for it.
It might be a question with a question. I'm still kind of investigating what that question brings up. But I'm loving what Corinne said, and also this idea of, when we become versed and the body is an archival tool, and we have all this information and history from the past, every time that we see the future represented, because historically Black bodies are not represented when we see the future, right? That's been an ongoing thing. So now, during times when we see the future represented, always when there's an absence and a lack of Black bodies present and Black art present, asking what do I look like in that space where future is being represented, right? And as that happens, you are inherently bringing along the information that's already housed in your body. So all of this history that we're talking about, it's woven into the fabric of who we are every day. So when you ask the question of, now what would I look like in this space and in this narrative that's addressing future, you are in a way automatically bringing that information with you. And so the history then becomes, it's then put into the future, and it becomes part of that texture. But I think that for me, I ask that question of, what do I look like when there's that absence there? What would I look like in the space? What does my community look like in that space that's being portrayed? And I just have to shout out Lovecraft Country, because I feel like that was an interesting bridge between history and future, and us seeing Afrofuturism in a scripted series for the first time on a mainstream platform. And I thought it was done in a way where it gives us a template to say, here is this linear kind of representation of Blackness. So.
Absolutely. KJ, you wanted to chime in.
Yes, I'm just sitting here taking in everything that Corinne and Nina just spoke about and spoke to, because there's a lot that I'm still learning and growing in, as we all are, of course. But I think that when it comes to representation, that's just so vital. earlier in the chat, I said, I think I was responding to the YouTube chat, and I was like, yes, my mini me, because my little cousin, I call her my mini me, Kamaria, and because she's always been like literally, and she's her own self. So when I say shadow, I don't mean it in a way of like, but for me, it's like I want to make sure that young girls and chocolate sisters and brown bodies see themselves reflected in areas of success, areas of prosperity, areas of financial wealth, and traveling the world and being educated and being loving and nurtured. And there's just so many ways that when we don't see ourselves, it's like you almost can feel like you're not a part of that vision. And or even if you feel like you have that instilled in yourself, it's hard to feel like how to be able to see, how do I get there? I know when I first moved to LA from DC, I Googled all of the agency, all of the dance agencies, and looked for literally African-American women. And I looked at their resumes, I looked at their bios, and then I looked to see where did they train with, what choreographers were hiring them, what artists, because I need to kind of also be able to see not just that there were people in positions that I wanted to be in, but also to be able to look at the path and the ways that they got there. And I think that's why we need to share our stories. It's not just about seeing the success on the end of the table. It's about seeing the process and being able to share that. And that's why it was so important between Claire and I. We both wanted to make sure we had this conversation after our pieces were done. We didn't want to say, good night, thank y'all, and son tuyos. Like, we wanted to make sure that we were able to have a conversation to dive into the backstories and the information of how we got to this position. And then also utilizing technology, because Afrofuturism, in the sense of being able to use what is ahead of time in order to navigate and narrate our stories. So even though many of us have been pushed into this form of media that, we may or may not have touched at whatever given time, but the fact that we're feeling the pressure in a good way to create that now, a century past Harlem Renaissance era, where artists were feeling the need to create that work now. And that then informed the trajectory of our artistry and creativity. Every ad lib and scat and the film, and from the Stormy Weathers to the Callaways to the, that's why I think about why we are where we are today. And now it's just that, and that next push is here. So I'm just encouraged to embrace that push. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. I'm inspired by this conversation. I am grateful that we had it. I feel like our voices are important and need to be heard. And so I'm excited for this conversation to live on online, whatever platform it does, for people to hear what y'all brought to the table today. I am going to wrap us up. And in doing that, KJ and I, we actually had a series, a Clubhouse series, where we had conversations for 6 weeks leading up to this show. Many of y'all on the stage were there with us in our weeks. And we had this practice, this ceremony, this ritual of making sure at the end of our conversations, we just uplift the things that the panelists are working on. So I know earlier we had shared like classes that are coming up that you will start teaching again, our shows that are happening. So I just want to give each panelist a short, like 30 seconds to a minute to really shout out what you're doing. Like no shame in it at all. Please tell the world what you're up to, what they can tune into to support you next. So I'm gonna ask, can we start with Kareen, and we'll just work our way around.
So in addition to the Black Women Flourish collaboration, the healing session that's on May 1st for Black identified folks, I am also going to be performing throughout the summer. I'm not exactly sure if it's going to be in person. Who knows what's next? But yeah, I think I'm just trying to continue to see how this year unfolds and continue writing. Like screenwriting is kind of my focus right now, because I do want to shoot a short film this fall. It's a vampire love story. Stay tuned. Because why not? Yeah, we'll see what happens. But you can always go to my website, www.kareemflorima.com to see what I'm working on.
Maxine, can you go next?
Well, in addition to my film, I'm a teaching artist, like I said, for Camille A. Brown and dancers, and I have a workshop coming up in May for teens. If you visit Everybody Move Worldwide, which is Camille Brown's platform on her website, you'll see the information on those workshops for teens. But yeah, if people want more updates on what's coming up, I'm very good about updating on my Instagram, which is at Maxine Montelis, and then my website is under my full name as well, where I have events listed there too.
Nina.
Hi, yes, just to reiterate, opening classes back up, creating these spaces for Afro embodiment, and just what that looks like through house, through dance hall, so it's an Afro embodiment series touching on different Afro diasporic languages and how do we access that, right? And then how do we access the intersectionality of those multiple languages that live in the body through a movement practice. So without getting too deep, you know, come and dance and move your body and move some things around and move some energy and get into it, right? So that's the most immediate thing. And then beyond that, working on my own repertory work and creating new work. Of course, as we're all coming through the pandemic and, you know, realizing how and what things look like and how that's informing our work. So at Nina _dance on Instagram for any updates. Thank you.
Rachel.
Hey everybody, again. I feel like I repped, but I'll rep one more time. You can check out our monthly subscription package with Extra Ancestral. We have at least 20 to 30 classes a month from all over traditional dances from the African diaspora. My handles are Rachel Hernandez Dance. You can check out at Extra Ancestral. Also check out Khalil C33. We have a show coming up on May 22nd. With the Levitt Pavilion. We have a show coming up on May 29th with US Expo, a group from Alabama. We worked with them earlier this year. We have KJ and myself, and also Extra Ancestral has a Juneteenth with California Social Grant Makers, an online visual performance coming up sometime June 15th through the 18th, I think. You can chime in there, girl. I can't remember. But Extra Ancestral is presenting work there as well as KJ. And we have a show August 26th at the Skirt Ball. Going to be amazing, as well as a show September 18th at the Ford. That's it for now. Thank you.
Amazing. Angela.
Well, I'm studying with Rachel and Khalil right now, and I will always be a student for life. And I am brainstorming 2 projects. I wanted to shop a pilot. Yes, and this is just a brainstorming stage. And another one, I want to do a short film. I'm really more into filmmaking these days. So that's where I'm at right now. Thank you all.
I will go next to give KJ and Claire the last words. So I am working on a show called Testimony. It will tentatively premiere in March 2022, and it is going to be a 3-day weekend that is all about uplifting Afro-diasporic women and our journeys of healing and faith. I have works that will premiere that weekend. You can find out more about it by going to my website, which is www.tulabstrong.com, or to my IG at tula.b.strong, and just go to my link in my bio. Then you could sign up to make sure you don't miss it. Clara, would you like to go next? And then maybe we could give KJ the last word.
Yes, I'm working on graduating. And if you would like to stay posted on any offerings that I have, you can follow me at Clara_August or Eternus Dance Company. I do offer yoga classes throughout the year, and I often share them on these platforms. So yeah.
And KJ.
like Claire, I'm working on graduating. So thank you all for your support and for getting us this far. Tomorrow, if you are in LA, I am doing a live pop-up premiere in Lamarck Park at the Lion Art Gallery. So come through if you are available. We will be wearing masks and we do have a limit, so you'll have to register. Everything is on my website, which is Jenelle, KRAJENELLE.com//ИYÁguration. And so that's what I'm working on. And beyond that, I just want to take a moment to really just say how grateful I am for everyone, all of the supporters that, this question was asked earlier as far as community, but also the people that donated to my GoFundMe, everybody that supported financially, that supported with their talents, that supported with their prayers and thoughts and just well wishes. Just know that does not go unnoticed. And so I just want to say thank you to all of my family who supports me, even from the East Coast and from afar. I'm just in love with all of you all, and especially for my panelists that are here. The importance of having Wade in my piece, as far as Wade in the Water, is because my name is Wade. So when we were talking about just legacy and knowing identity, I forgot who mentioned it earlier, but as far as like taking that time to also think about and find your own legacy. So just know that when I sing A Wade in the Water, incorporate that many times, is because I'm actually channeling in who I am as a person, and my path, and my parents who are on this watching this right now too. I'm a battle and I'm a Wade. So I just want to say how much I love and adore you all, and I'm just so grateful.
So thank you, our audience members, for joining in with us tonight. I don't want to give the last word because it is the time to celebrate KJ and Clara. So I am giving my good night, but Clara, KJ, please feel free to unmute, say anything that you would like to say goodbye. Any of my panelists who would like to say goodbye to our audience, please feel free to do that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone. And also thank you to all my collaborators as well. This would not have been possible without you. Thank you, Tula. Thank you, KJ, for helping to organize all this as well. Thank you.
Thank you all for watching across the globe. Angela, Rachel, Anita, Kareem, Maxine, Tula, Clara, we love y'all. Thank you. Shout out. Thank you, UCLA WAC-D. Shout out to Mark, who has been behind the scenes making all of this happen. So UCLA WAC-D production, department chairs, committee people, everybody, audience, thank y'all so much. We hope you have an amazing night. And that's all we got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.